Hello YouTube, today I will be changing my desk from this to this. And before I show you how I got there, let me explain the issues I had with my own setup. In my previous setup I was using a 4-foot plastic picnic table. As you can see with my tower, monitor, and speakers, there was very little space left for other things. In fact, my right speaker is not even on the table. It's placed on top of a filing cabinet I kept there. I try my best to hide and route the cables behind my monitor and speakers and tower, but there is zero cable management with this setup. And adding things like a MIDI keyboard on the table was just not possible. But then I learned about the platform Workstation desk by Output. It had the multi-tier configuration I needed to separate my equipment, a keyboard tray, and an excellent concept for managing cables. I began comparing Workstation desk and I quickly realized that the platform desk was a bargain. Other Workstation desks can quickly escalate to $2,000 or $3,000, but the Output sells their platform desk for $800 in either brown or gray finishes with the sliding keyboard shelf. However, even at the fair price of $800, that was just out of my budget. That is when I found Richard's video where he shows how he built himself a desk using the design of the platform Workstation using the documentation provided by Output for their platform desk. He sketched his own version of the desk and his results were amazing, and this inspired me to also take on the task of building my own desk. I also found another person, his YouTube channel is named Extra Life, who also built his own version of the platform desk. His results were also excellent, and I was even more surprised that he was able to build this in his apartment patio using very little tools. I also want to mention Keith, who demystified what I consider the most difficult part of this build, and that is how to varnish the desk after it was finally built. There is a lot of misleading information on the internet how to apply varnishes, but his simple approach to it allowed me to be confident that I would be able to do it as well. The build began by making a trip to Lowe's and buying two 3/4 thick 4x8 boards. I chose a 7-ply board made from pine. Each board was $40. I began by sketching my own design. I tried using measurements from other videos, but I realized that since I was changing the height and depth of the shelves, my angles would not line up like theirs. I came up with the idea to make a box representing the maximum height and length of the desk. First cut I made was for the desktop, and I chose the best section from both boards as it was going to be the most visible. Using a level and scrap pieces of wood, I began drawing the outline so what would be the legs. I then placed the legs over the line, clamped it, and drew with a marker where I had to cut. I did this for all the legs and also cut the top shelf. I assembled the desk to check my work and to see if I had done anything wrong. I leveled the legs and made sure to square everything so I would already have the screw holes made and make final assembly easier. I then took it apart and began sanding all the parts until I got a smooth and uniform surface. I also made all the remaining pieces. I then gave it one generous coat of pre-stain conditioner to get an even color saturation. This is the stain I used for all the parts. I did tests on scrap pieces and found that the pre-stained wood had a way better uniform color on them compared to the non-pre-stained. I left the stained pieces dry out for a day and then sanded them again and applied a second coat of stain. I did another partial assembly to cut the keyboard shelf to appropriate length. Once I had all the details worked out, I stained any parts I cut, like the holes, to prep for varnish. I needed something that would be fairly easy to spray for brushless finish and something that would dry fast enough to spray several coats in one Saturday afternoon. This is the HVLP spray gun I use. I had this gun for 2 years still in a box, never opened because I never thought I would be able to do something like this. It's a Husky brand sold at Home Depot for like less than $100. I sprayed all the undersides of the desk that would not be heavily used, 3 coats using a ratio of 1 part lacquer and 1 part lacquer thinner. Everything else that was going to have equipment on it or would be exposed, I sprayed 6 coats using a ratio of 2 parts lacquer and 1 part lacquer thinner. It was left to dry for a day and then assembled together one last time. Well, almost one last time. You'll see what I mean. I cut the install video short because the rest of it was just me being OCD about the cable management. But this is the final setup for my desk. All the cables are hidden and routed very cleanly. The back of my monitor doesn't look like a rat's nest anymore. I love this rear panel where all the cables run through, and I just want to give credit to Output because it's their design and the ideas that make this desk amazing. My speaker monitors are at the perfect height, equally distanced from me. My desktop looks so sleek there in its own little space, which is a modification I made from the original platform design. I have so much room now for any MIDI keyboard or most synths out there. I slide it open when I want to use it and slide it back out of sight when I'm done. I sacrifice one of the 3U rack compartments, but I still have two 3U 19-inch rack compartments for future expansions of this desk. I kept the piece of wood I removed from the top shelf just in case in the future I want to revert back to the original design. I could mount it using brackets to recover that 3U compartment. And best of all for me, I have all this beautiful desktop space available now. I just want to share with you my experience building this desk because I never done anything like this and my workflow has improved greatly because of it. I finished editing and narrating this video using my new desk.